Welcome back to PI Today podcast. I'm your host, Denè Jones. And today we're going to take our conversation in a different direction than the average TBI, auto accident, or even trial prep. We're going to talk about some wider issues and even heavier cases that some of our trial attorneys fight for on a daily basis. And that takes us today to South Pasadena at the Carrillo Law Firm. And in front of me today, joining me, is trial attorney and law firm owner Michael Carrillo. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. The Daily Journal wrote that your firm has become a beacon and an advocate to the Latin communities and the marginalized groups. It's such an amazing compliment, not only to you and your law firm, but to the work that you've done over and over consistently. And that's kind of what I would like to talk to you or talk to our members about, the work you've done, the cases that you work on, and the people that you represent. Because as we've even talked about today, the media is not so friendly. So to have a media to say that you are an advocate and a beacon to marginalized groups is, a compliment's not even the great work. So the work that you do is amazing, and I really would like to shed light on that. So please tell us about the Carrillo Law Firm, the work that you do, and the cases that you're representing today.
Well, I wish I could take all the credit for that, but I cannot. My father has been an attorney for, I think, over 48 years now.
Wow.
And his background has always been fighting for the little man, fighting for the marginalized, the Latino population and community. He is someone that I admire, I respect, I love. If it were up to him, I think we would run a nonprofit business because he is somebody that his heart is behind it. He cares so much about his people, his clients, and that is kind of what guides us. Of course, we've handled some very serious cases, some very horrific injustices, and I think that's what leads us, is following those injustices against our community, responding to that, and making sure our people have strong representation against the big guys, the counties, the big law firms. That's why I think maybe we've gotten such an amazing quote in the Daily Journal. It's not me, it's my dad that's led the charge for many years, and I'm only here to try and see that path and that journey continues.
So you were, prior to joining your father and after getting out of college and law school, you were criminal defense and family, correct?
Yes, those are the difficult years in that type of law, yes.
What made you change?
I joined with my dad on these Miramonte sex abuse cases. It was the Miramonte sex abuse scandal where Mark Burnt was molesting kids and was putting his semen on cookies, spoon feeding that to children, impersonating necrophilia porn with the little kids. I worked with him on that case, along with some other very amazing lawyers, John Manley being one of them. And that was my foot into real civil practice. And being a part of that case changed my life. I've met some amazing lawyers, but the clients that we met and we represented really changed the trajectory of my life and the practice, because making an impact in these little boys and girls' lives is so amazing to see. And now we get to do that every day and help people that obviously we can't put them back into where they were, but we can try to change their future. And that's what brings me so much joy to come into the office, come to work every day.
And that was in 2014, $139.2 million. That was amazing. How many victims were a part of that?
Well, it was about 60 that were part of that settlement. We had about 25. John Manley had some. Brian Claypool had his office had some. But yeah, we made an impact on that. It was really an amazing result.
And sex abuse claims have become now your passion. Was it stemming from that case?
Yes, that's what started it all. And from there, I guess the community thought that this is all we do, or this is what we do, and we would just start getting more calls, and now that's really become a passion.
And you do focus on, I think there was wrongful death, some immigration, police accountability, but sex abuse is like your number one focus.
I think it is. I mean, it's the predominant amount of cases that we have. And then the next up is civil rights, so police accountability, police shootings mostly, or police asphyxial deaths. And then, yes, we do wrongful death as well.
Are you handling the criminal side of that?
We can't handle criminal, only the district attorneys can.
Oh, okay.
But we work with our clients and the DAs to make sure that there is some criminal accountability when there can be.
And then you step in on the civil side of it
Yes.
when it's there.
Yes.
That's amazing. You were just recently inducted into a BOTA.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You were a finalist at CAOC Street Fighter of the Year, a Clay Award recipient.
Yes, that was cool.
I mean, you have some amazing accolades, and rightfully so. I mean, these cases are very, very heavy. And, you know, the Miramonte, the amount that we just, I mean, when I was like looking up the amounts of verdicts and settlements, the list is long. But as we talked, not only that, but the thing that you're most passionate about is that you also affect change, laws and policy, and that has to be, because these are so heavy, that has to be the lasting satisfaction and impact. Do you want to talk about some of the policy changes that you guys have
Yes.
pushed through?
Yes. I mean, the awards and accolades, they're very nice because they come from colleagues. So that means somebody out there is recognizing the work that we're doing. But at the end of the day, once my time is done and I'm not practicing anymore or not on this earth, what really matters to me is the impact that I've left, of course, with my clients, but also the changing in the law. We work to develop, we work with Senator Cortese on Melanie's Law, which provided more education and training to schools on fentanyl crisis that was taking place and that killed one of our clients. We worked with another Senator Caballero on the passage of Susie's Law, which helped enhance the civil rape shield statutes to make sure that victims were not having all their history being brought into a civil court if they wanted to get justice for what, say, a teacher was doing or some other coach or somebody else.
That was really crazy.
That was, I feel, a huge impact. And I'm just grateful to the senator, to CAOC, everybody that contributed, because it took a lot of effort to get that across the finish line.
That was a really long battle, too.
It was, and yes, it was. And now I'm working with some other legislators on some other laws that I think will protect kids. And to me, that's the most important, is getting these laws passed that will outlive me and outlive my kids even.
That's amazing. That really is. I read a statistic, and I think you had placed this in there. It was 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 20 boys in the U.S. experience child abuse.
Well, 1 in 4 boys, and I think it's 1 in 6. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys.
Oh, wow.
I think that was the right number. So maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong. I haven't looked at the stats, but I think that's right.
Then that must have changed, because that was in the Daily Journal as
well.
I'm
sorry.
But I mean, either way, those are staggering numbers.
It is. It happens a lot more than people think. And when I'm speaking to people in my community, telling what I do, they say, well, wait a minute, there's all that going on? And I say, yes, it's happening. It's happening right now as we're talking, you and I, in classrooms across this country. And not enough is being done to protect kids.
Yeah, I think the children anymore are the most vulnerable and under attack, and it's the ones closest to them that are the biggest monsters in their lives, which is really, really sad. The other thing that I liked, because it's not the typical auto and it's not the typical TBI case that we have. If someone else has a case, that's a sexual abuse case and it's against an entity, against a county or the school district, what piece of advice would you give to them that they should look for, or how to handle the case properly? Not to give away your secret sauces, but, something that they should be mindful of.
I think that when you deal with something so sensitive as sexual abuse, it's good to speak to colleagues that have handled these cases, like myself. And it's not to say, oh, speak to us because we're going to take the case from you or anything like that. It's mostly just to get a perspective on how much different sexual abuse cases are versus the personal injury cases are. what I always say is personal injury is not sex abuse, and sex abuse is not personal injury. I think I got that from Janet Fields, if that's ringing in my ears there. But it's so true that you have to approach it differently. When you prepare the clients for deposition, you have to take a totally different approach. I've said this before, we have weighted teddy bears in our office. We have fidget spinners or other things for their hands because we know that these victims, these survivors, are going through it, and they need simple cues to remind them, don't get lost in your head or out there. You have to stay present and remember that you're here, you're safe. To me, it's important that you reach out. Just like if we have a brain injury case, I'm going to reach out to some colleagues that I know do these cases more because, again, I look to them for guidance. You've been through these wars, you know how to attack it. So that's what I would recommend, at least, to put on a different perspective, come at it at a different angle than you normally would on, say, a car crash case.
And I think it's kind of important too, just like, if it's TBI case or catastrophic auto case, if you're not equipped to handling that, refer it out. A lot of times people get stuck in a fee, like, I want 100% of that fee, but if you can't handle it properly, a portion of a so much bigger fee. But in these type of cases, getting the right voice to speak for that victim is so much greater than any kind of a fee, because these are heavy, sad cases that they need the right voice. And so if you're not equipped to handling it, get it to someone who can, because they deserve the maximum justice that they truly deserve.
Yes, I agree with that. I've also seen examples where we've been brought into some cases, and at the end of it, I found that the lawyer really could have done it themselves. And that's because they have the compassion, the kindness, they care enough. And really, I think those are the lawyers that actually do bring the cases our way because they see that maybe this isn't something that they're used to doing. Maybe they need a different approach. But of course, yes, I'm of the same thought. 100% of something big is great, but 100, half of that or whatever the referral is for something even greater than that, hey, everybody wins. And at the end of the day, what matters is what's best for the client.
100%. And we're also going to link all of his law firm contact information, his personal contact information at the end of this, because if you do have a case, again, I think it's very important to talk to someone that knows how to handle these cases, because the victim is the most important person. He's always available to talk about the case, to collaborate, and ultimately help you out with it. So we're going to link it down below. He's always available to talk about it. So reach out, talk to the expert. That's what it's about. Speaking of experts, you did have a really great article as well about in trial talking about the invisible injury. And I think that even regular PI attorneys, when we talk about TBI cases, that's an invisible injury, and how you get that trauma related over to the jury so that way they can understand the pain and what they're kind of going through just because they can't see it. And a lot of times it's hard to open up. I mean, to relive, trauma over and over, it's tough. How do you do that?
Well, that article really resonated with me, and if you read the first sentence, it talks about what a juror had said about one of the survivors that testified. And what stuck out to me about that is that the juror said something effective. I could really see he was struggling because he was wringing his hands and the way he was moving his body. And that survivor that I'm thinking of who testified, by the time we got to trial, he was about 18, 19 years old, 6'4", 250. He was a man. Mm-hmm. But I think conveying that story of trauma, be it TBI or be it sexual abuse, really requires an attorney to sit down and just put away phones, put away all distractions, and really tune into your human side again.
Yeah.
And just get that full picture, that full story. A lot of times we don't have that time as lawyers. Hey, we got so many things to worry about, witnesses, trial order, judges are coming down hard on us, we don't know how to respond, and we got to prep the client for testimony tomorrow. You really have to sit down and set some time apart to meet with that person. Really, what's going on? Tell me about your life. And it's not, what are the damages? What's it been? It's Talk to me. Tell me how you've been doing. What about this? What about that? And for me, what really helps is asking the client about things, and then if they're quiet or if they're not saying the full message of what they've been through, we say, hey, well, sometimes we've seen people go through this, and sometimes we've seen people go through that. It sends a message that they're not alone, that they're not the only person. Oh, hey, I have felt like that too. And it's not to say that we're trying to get them to say something. It's really just to identify other symptoms and other people suffering, to bring out their symptoms and what they've been through. It's hard for these survivors. I'm grateful that they've trusted us, and really with that trust comes a greater purpose of identifying what they've been through and really being able to convey that to the jury.
And you're doing a fantastic job, 100%. What do you think moving forward would be the perfect, you're a law firm owner, checks and balances for our industry and, our association, so the state doesn't step in and institute certain things that's not beneficial?
Yes, there's been a lot of movement lately in the state capitol to try and come after plaintiffs' attorneys and what they're doing. I think it's wrong. I think it's denying justice to people that have been harmed, because really at the end of the day, those are the people that need us, people that can't afford to pay money up front. For me, these county cases, the juvenile hall cases, it seems like it was total oversight by the county, their lawyers, and whoever they hired. How are you going to pay a settlement fund without even vetting these people, taking their depositions? I've never had a case where people like this are just given a bunch of money without taking a deposition. That seems like the absolute basic. So I totally blame the county as well and their lawyers for not taking some sort of accountability of who's filing lawsuits. Why don't we get some basic information? Instead, they say, here, let's wipe our hands with it, instead of actually seeing who caused this, who's at fault, whether there's a case. Sorry, you hit me in a very tough spot right now.
I love
This
it,
is on
though.
the top of my mind, and it's clearly bothering me.
Well, it affects you,
Yes.
the cases that you represent and the actual victims that you're trying and fighting for justice for. So it, of course, is going to affect you. And I'm glad, because as a colleague, they need to hear from you, It affects you. So thank you for being honest, and hopefully they hear this and take it to heart. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for the hard work that you do. You're making an impact, and it's not just the amazing verdicts that you're getting, but you're actually making change, and it's amazing. So thank you for doing what you do. It has to be hard taking it home, and it wears on you. It takes you away from your families, but you're making legacy changes, and all the other attorneys that come after you, you're making their life and their case is so much easier because you're fighting the good fight. So thank you so much, and thank you again for the time today, and we really appreciate you.
Of course. Glad to be here, and thank you, Denè, for having me on. You are a pillar of the personal injury community. I think we all look to you for help, and just to feature myself and other amazing people in this industry, I think is very important. So cheers to you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. And again, we're going to link all of his information and the law firm. Please contact him if you have a case. Reach out to the expert. Your client deserves a great voice. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, PI Today podcast, sponsored by Trauma Cash, Global Lean Doctors and TBI Analytics. You can find us on our website, www.pi2daypodcast.com, also on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and LinkedIn as PI 2-Day Podcast to watch all our episodes. See you next time.